All right. We're back. We're back now on stream, whether it's the same stream or a different stream. I have no fucking idea. Let me check the phone. Oh, motherfucker.
Who? One person watching, apparently.
Did we get? Well, it's probably me, but
maybe me.
Did it catch? Well, not on that one. I doubt. We'll find out. Test. I got something here. 7 views 2 hours ago. Oh, that ain't that one. Hey, we got 2. All right. Davey, different stream. Yes, my worthless opinion. I had to kill it. I had no idea what the heck was going on. Thank you, Mary, for being back here. Jim, I'm glad now you can hear. Good. I had a blip, something, and my stream deck went out, which is this is a stream deck for those that are curious.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of macro buttons that I have the show set up slide-wise in. And it went out, so I reset it and something. And then we lost the purple background around the comments. And it was about that time that somehow I got muted. And it took a while to figure it out. Yes,
but
Justin, take 2. It's called production value. We all know that who tried to do this. So we're going to get to it. You heard Darren through his spiel on all 3 of those quarterbacks. Now I wish to weigh in.
Yes, and I want to hear this and all everybody else. Well, I know where Justin stands.
I asked the questions. I earlier in the week, I sent Darren a bunch of questions. All right, obviously the big topic of this week was who is going to be starting quarterback. We don't know. I haven't a clue. O'Connell, like Darren said, had mentioned that he was going to pull him. He didn't make that at all. Didn't know what in the world was going to happen. Could be Jonathan and Dobbs was going to hack the channel. And that very well may be it. And he hasn't even heard my response yet. I may select him to play. We'll find out. But I asked, what are the advantages and disadvantages of playing each one of them? Mm-hmm. When it comes to Joshua Dobbs obviously has a lower floor when it comes to turnovers. He leads the league in turnovers. That's not a good thing. But we know that his highs, when it's hitting, when everything's working and he's hitting the players, his highs are spectacular. He's the only quarterback that scored over 30 points this year. His ability to move with his legs is fantastic, to scramble out of trouble and go. But after last week, we also heard Kevin O'Connell talk about rhythm, that you need rhythm in this offense. It's one of the 2 words. I'm forgetting the other one. But rhythm was a big deal, that the offense is built on rhythm, and he doesn't have it. There's no reason for him. He hasn't been here forever to build up rhythm and timing to where, this is a 5-step drop and it takes, you're thinking in your head like you're dancing. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let it go, let the ball go. And knowing that the timing that your wide receiver is going to be at spot A to catch the ball. He doesn't have that. That's why we see balls behind, right? Whether it be to KJ Osborne or to Jordan Addison or wherever it is, the balls are off by a bit. That could be either accuracy or it's lack of rhythm and having that internal clock, that the ability to adjust the eyeball to know that my guy's running. I know he runs this fast because we've gone through a bazillion reps together. I need to lead it this far to put it in his hands so he's running in stride. Those are some of the faults Josh Dobbs has. But on the plus sides, when he's on and he's hot and he's running and he's passing and hitting receivers, my God, is it fun to watch. And we watched it in that first 2 games. So cohesion, that's part of it, Davey. That's all part of that. Yes. Well, that's Josh Dobbs. Do you then with him take it and go, well, hey, the game wasn't as bad as we thought, right? Yes, he had 4 interceptions. 2 of them were obviously not his fault. And I'm saying the game wasn't as bad because of him as we thought. The game was horrible. Still pisses me off. I still have that bad taste, in your mouth that you want to get that only gets cleaned out with another win. So, and then Johnson with Dobbs, at least we could remember how it feels to have a more mobile quarterback. Yes. But it looked like last week Kevin O'Connell was trying to force him into the Kirk Cousins light mode and have him drop back and sit in the pocket. Was O'Connell not adjusting his game plan and trying to fit square peg, round circle type shit, round hole, and trying to make him a drop back passer like Kirk Cousins is? And that's just not Josh's game. I don't know, but there's highs and there's lows. And if this gets figured out, the highs are great. So we can go. And if you're looking at highs and low of play, he's probably got the biggest variation of the 3 quarterbacks we're talking about. Bring in the second quarterback to talk about. That is Mr. Jaren Hall, our 5th round rookie. Jaren Hall, we don't expect much. I mean, we drafted him in the 5th round. We hope he develops. We expected him not to play at all this year and just to develop into a backup quarterback. That was the most you can hope for generally from a 5th rounder. Well, he came in that one game, and first drive was bleh. Second drive was good. Nice long one down the field, getting ready to score. Boom, concussed. We don't know. The highs and the lows of Jaren Hall, we literally don't know because we haven't seen enough.
Other than preseason, which doesn't tell you a whole lot.
Oh, yeah, other than preseason when he's playing with the 3s and the 2. Yeah. We don't know a whole lot, and we'd like to see him more. I'm on the side of the fan base that, hey, I want to see more Jaren Hall. And I do. I think his arm's adequate. He runs sufficiently. Very good. He's maybe not be Josh Dobbs, but he's a good runner. I would like to see him play, to see how high his highs are, to see how low his lows are. That would be, to me, I very much want to see that. But the question is, does Kevin O'Connell want to see that? And I see him in practice every day. Well, if you see him in practice every day, why were we getting the propaganda that comes out of Egan? And folks, most of it is propaganda. That, oh my God, he's so good with the practice team. He's causing fits to our defense, blah, 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 blah. Oh, we're so impressed with him. And yet when it's time to possibly start him, it's like, nope. So, when they started him when they did, because we didn't have anybody. We picked up Josh Dobbs just because we had to have a second body. So I want to see what he can do. Justin obviously wants to see what he can do. A lot of fans want to see what Jaren Hall can do. But then you've got to take into effect, we're at 6-6. We are presently the 6th seed in the NFC. And we'll get into the playoffs in Theme 3. What is the best way to get to the playoffs? We all know the Wolves want a playoff team. They want us in the playoffs. And they figure if we can get in, anything can happen. And for the most part, that is a correct statement. Anything can happen if you get in. So then they're looking at it. So what will it take to get us in? What gives us the most opportunity to do that? The rhythm and timing thing What quarterback of the three has the most time in this system, the Kevin O'Connell system, the most throws to all the receivers, including Justin Jefferson? There's only one. Mm-hmm. That's Nick Mullens. Jaren Hall has some, but Nick Mullens has 2 seasons worth. Or you'd call one. And now that he's back, this would be his 2nd season. So now Nick Mullens, when we talk highs and lows, his floor is a little higher than Josh Dobbs is. He doesn't get quite as bad. No, granted, he's thrown like 17 interceptions and 23 touchdowns or whatever. It's not spectacular, but it's not quite as bad. And can he run? Can he get aggressive on his passes? Yes, he can do that. But he's had time started, I think, more games than Joshua Dobbs has. He's literally the perfect guy you want holding the clipboard and being a number 2 guy. His highs, however, even though he's won a bunch of games, especially with San Francisco, or won some games with San Francisco, I got corrected on a previous show, that are not quite as high. You don't have that uber high side that can take you somewhere. He's a solid band in the middle type deal. So O'Connell and crew has a decision to make. Who should we start? As Darren said, Nick Mullens was your number 2 guy from the get-go. And normally your number 2 guy comes in when the number 1 guy, Kirk Cousins, pops his Achilles and done for the season. Well, we didn't have that because Mullens was out since October with a back issue. So you could flip a coin as to who starts. There's arguments for all 3 to start. There's arguments for all 3 that, that guy over there shouldn't start. And I'm curious how it goes. If I had my personal preferences, I'd put in Hall. I don't have my personal preferences. I don't own the team. I can't control that. Now, what's the smart conservative move? That guy over there, Nick Mullens. You trust him that he knows the system. He's been in it 2 years. He can make the throws. You trust him to carry on and hope it works. We'll find out. But we don't know what Kevin O'Connell can do. He may have calmed down this week. His wife may have told him he was, too off the rocker. Stick with Dobbs. Adjust your game plan to accommodate Dobbs. Dobbs is not Kirk Cousins. And he does that. Who knows? Or somebody may say, hey, the Wilfs follow what the fans are saying, and the fans are all yelling for Jaren Hall. They want to see the young kid. All 3 could happen. We don't know. But logically, like Darren says, Nick Mullens is your starter against the Las Vegas Raiders. Mr. Pink, welcome to the show. So that's the end of theme 1. Now we can go on to theme 2 since everything seems to be working as normal. Thank you for letting me get all that off my chest. Since I was muted, it was building up pressure. That brings us to theme 2, where we're talking about, is he good? And that he is the man with those decisions on the quarterback, Kevin O'Connell.
And lots of other things, Dave. Yeah, wanted to get into this because, Kevin O'Connell has been our head coach for almost 2 seasons now. And so when that happens, you start to accumulate baggage as a head coach. Happens to all of them. And some of that baggage is not positive. And I think particularly with the result and the performance by the Vikings against the Chicago Bears, there's been lots of questions about Kevin O'Connell's play calling, but that's been happening all year, I think, and other things. But I think he's accumulating some baggage. Not all of it is good, And so the question kind of becomes, when we looked at the first season for Kevin O'Connell, it was pretty much a honeymoon in a lot of ways. Particularly, the Vikings go 13-4. They waltz through the division. They get into the playoffs for the first time since 2019, and he took a team that and won all those close games, and people thought, hey, we got something special here. This 2023 has not been that way. You've got and the questions have arose about his play calling, how aggressive, and particularly how aggressive he is in the red zone late in the games when it matters the most. So the question is Kevin O'Connell a good coach? Or is he a bad coach who's just gotten lucky particularly in his first year, and that luck is starting to run out now? Yeah, that's right. He did not throw those 4 picks. I think that Kevin O'Connell is a good coach. There's a few reasons why I think that. People are going to disagree on there, and that is great and fine. One thing, and this is I think a soft coaching skill that we're talking about, is I think that he's established a pretty strong team culture with the Vikings since he's got there. I feel that like players, like I'm going back to maybe Mike Zimmer for a little bit. It didn't feel to me like when the last couple of years with Zim, like players were having much fun, that they enjoyed going to work. And I don't want to bag on Mike Zimmer that much because
I think Mike enjoyed going to work.
No, that may have been part of the problem too. But I don't want to bag on him too much because I think that he did a lot of very good things for the Vikings. He was the right coach at the right time for us when he took over in 2014. And so but the last couple of years, things definitely went south. And again, I think players played scared. They didn't enjoy going to work. And Kevin O'Connell has changed all of that. I think, he's made the Minnesota a place that players want to be, that they want to stay there. People like Patrick Peterson never wanted to leave, but the team really decided to move on, I think, from Peterson, not vice versa. And you hear about players really who coming in, they always say that, but I think that they talk about talking to players who've been here before and how they really laud what the Vikings are doing under Kevin O'Connell. And I think that I think Kevin O'Connell has shown that he's just not, he wants good football players, but that is not all of it to him. He cares about them being good on the field, but he also cares about them personally and off the field. And I think that is important for your team culture. And I think that makes players want to play hard and want to play hard for you. And that is an important thing in the NFL. So I think that he's done a really good job there. I think, too, he's developed in 2 years, I think, a very disciplined team. We have been one of the least penalized teams in the NFL 2 years running, and that is not an accident. That when it happens 1 year, maybe it's a fluke, but 2 years and on, you're doing something coaching-wise, you're emphasizing that, and that is showing through. And I like teams that don't commit a lot of penalties and don't hurt themselves in that area. So I think that is a good thing. And I think they've been disciplined off the field too, Dave. You don't hear of these off-field crap other than Addison with the speeding, but there hasn't been a lot of that. I think they're bringing in good quality people who aren't going to be...
you don't have a future Hall of Fame edge rusher beating up some woman.
Yes, right. So I think that's another thing he's done well. I think he's done, however things go here, I think he's done a tremendous job in 2023 in holding this team together with all the challenges that the Vikings have faced, starting off 1-4 with the turnovers. Maybe that's partly the coaching staff fault, but I don't know about that either. But, and just, you lose Jefferson, you lose Kirk Cousins for the year, you lose other key players like Jordan Hicks and Marcus Davenport for a significant amount of time. And you're still, again, in the play, you win 5 straight games. You've got a playoff spot right now. I don't think that a lot of coaches with a similar situation would have been able to do that. And Kevin O'Connell has. One other thing is that, at least in one area, he has not been afraid to make a big change with a big problem area. And that's what I mean by that was with Ed Donatel as our defensive coordinator. Had a terrible year, probably cost us the wild card playoff game for sure, the way the defense had played. And Kevin O'Connell saw that.
It cost the Giants tens of millions of dollars in the process.
Yeah. And maybe Brian Daboll's job.
Yeah.
But Kevin O'Connell saw that. He didn't waffle. Yeah, I think he clearly liked and respected Ed Donatell, but he looked at the defense and said they were terrible. The defensive strategy that Ed is employed that first year is not working. It doesn't work with our defense. We got to make a change. And then he did make the change. He was decisive about that right off the bat after the season ended. And the person he selected to change to replace Ed Donatell, the polar opposite of Ed Donatell as far as schematics goes, has been like a 100% home run. So that, I think, is, you got to give Kevin Connell credit for that, for recognizing there's a problem with his team and making that change decisively and picking the right guy to improve things.
And what I like is he had input into this selection.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Donatell was, I think, hired before KOC was by the selection group.
No, maybe.
But KOC had more input into it. But yes, and we'll get into probably Brian Flores, because Brian Flores has been brilliant. And everybody's worried that he's going to go next year and he's going to become a head coach somewhere and all that, yada, yada. We'll get into it more hopefully next week, because I had sent Darren a nice little article on how he's changing the game on defense. And that's a wonderful thing.
It is, especially when it's the Vikings doing the changing.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the good things that I think, a lot of positives that I've seen from Kevin O'Connell. But I think some of the things, the bad stuff that we've seen so far, I think let's mention the play calling first. I think it's hard for me as a fan. I think it's hard for us as a lot of fans to, his play calling has been criticized a lot this year in particular. And I think that I know that our Tyler Forness does not agree that Kevin O'Connell is a poor play caller. He actually thinks Kevin O'Connell is a very, very elite offensive mind and calls very good offensive plays. But I think, most fans have a real hard time judging that sort of stuff. Like, was it a bad play call, or did the players just do a shitty job executing? And then sometimes the defense just executes better than you do. There are no answers for what they've dialed up for you. They just call a better play than you do. They execute better. That happens on a lot of plays, offensive plays, no matter how good of a play caller you are. And so also fans, anytime an offense doesn't do well, it's always like the play calling has to be better. Terrible play calling, which is like a very lazy, easy analysis to make. Of course, the play calling must have been the problem, right? But there could be lots of things that thrown into it: blocks that aren't made, routes that aren't run properly, little subtle things. So I think that's a tough thing for us fans to really decipher, even if you're watching the tape, because you don't know what teams are emphasizing, what they're calling, that sort of thing, even if you can see the end result. But I do think that, there is a couple of things that have become kind of trends for KOC. And the one is just the one-score games, Dave, and the no-killer instinct, the inability to put teams away. In the 30 games that the Vikings have played under KOC, 23 of them have been one-score games. And 11 of the 12 this year have been one-score games. And that, I don't know how you get that out, weed that out, but that has become a tenet of the Kevin O'Connell Vikings so far in his 2 years. And they need to do something about that. And Kevin O'Connell needs to find a way to eliminate that and have us not have every game come down to the last play or the last drive every time. And I think the other thing that has really been particularly under the microscope the last 3 games, but beyond that, is just Kevin O'Connell's late game strategies, particularly, when we need it, late in the fourth quarter. And, I think you're seeing a lot of timid, very conservative, it's almost scared play calling in the red zone. Ted Glover, our friend and the host of Vikings Report with Ted and Drew, he found on the internet this week, he flashed it on a couple of things of going over the Vikings offensive drives late in the games against New Orleans, the Broncos, and then against the Bears. And in each of those situations, the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell have had the ball very late in the fourth quarter, on offense, and they've had a chance to either put the game away and not allow the other team to get the ball back by getting first downs and just keeping on moving it, or scoring and making the game a 2-score game, basically putting it out of reach with the other team likely only getting one drive. And they have not been able to do that in any of those games. 2 of them have resulted in the Vikings losing. And the Bears game, again, and you're seeing a lot of conservative play not to win, wussing out play calling, which is driving fans nuts, and probably has cost the Vikings 2 of those. Instead of going 3-0, we've gone 1-2, and a more aggressive mindset might have changed the result of at least one of those 2 losses. You look at the Bears game, you get the ball back with 3:27, huge fumble recovery by Anthony Barr. You got the ball at the 43-yard line, but you're only up by 1 point. So it seems clear to me that you've got to score there to, if you
want to pad it, yes.
Even if you just get a field goal, you force the Bears with very little time to score, to drive all the way down the field and get a touchdown to beat you. Well, what do? We call 2 runs to Madison, 1 up the middle, another to, I can't remember if it was the left or right, and then a shitty screen pass to Brandon Powell that has no chance. Total wise, we didn't gain a yard in the drive as a result. We don't even get position to kick a field goal. Greg Joseph probably would have missed it anyway, but we
There's Vikings fandom bubbling to the surface again.
Yes, it is. We don't even get a chance to kick the field goal and pad that lead, and we give it back to the Bears, and well, you know what happened next. So to me, I know that Josh Dobbs had thrown 4 interceptions. I know that Kevin O'Connell was probably scared as shit to put the ball in his hands at that point in case you got another turnover. But the result would have been the same either way. Like, I'd rather die forcing the issue, trying to score and win, than playing wuss ball and leaving it up to my defense, who's played awesome in that game. But eventually they're going to crack. Like, all the Bears needed was to get into field goal range, and they did that, with no problem at all. And you saw what happened, and the results ended up happening. And again, I think KOC has got to learn how to take the bull by the horns in those situations and play a little bit more aggressive and have more confidence in his team, even when maybe he shouldn't. And I think that's going to result in a much more confident and successful team. But I still think, despite that, I think we've got a good coach. And he's going to succeed here, and he has succeeded here. I think that the thing with all coaches is that he showed a lot of good things and some worrisome tendencies. The key for him is going to be finding a way to overcome and fix the worrisome tendencies so that it doesn't kill the Vikings long term and cost him his job. But I think that Kevin O'Connell is going to figure that out. And I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, Dave, but I think I know.
Well, I hope he does too. I think he can. I think he's a bright, young, offensive mind that could be a very good coach. He does, however, need that aggressive gene, a little bit more testosterone or something turned up a few notches, and then learn to be able to put a team down. If you're beating somebody, go ahead and go for the dagger. Go ahead and go for the blowout. Learn to win big and it not be that's unsportsmanlike. We don't want to make them look bad. No. Learn that, hey, my guys are running my offense the best they possibly can, and we're tweaking it every single play so they can run it better and better and better, and you just happen to lose 70-20, right? I want those games. But that mentality is something that has to be learned. It has to be learned by him, and it has to be learned by the team that they can do that, and that it's almost expected. Hey, I wouldn't mind, the O-line room or the running back room or the QB room or wide receivers and the defense and everybody else putting up your wagers. Tomahawk steak for this. You blow them out by 3 touchdowns, the defense buys the offense a tomahawk steak.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do some motivational things like that. Or, hey, you blow them out by 3 touchdowns, the coaching staff buys The whole team, tomahawk steaks, whether it be at Manny's or over at the hotel in that restaurant, whatever it is, right? And motivate them to do such things. Can he become that sort of coach? I think so. I think he's going through some growing pains because, like we said, he's only a year and a half into it, basically. And he's got to learn. He never had the play calling experience nor the head coaching experience prior to this. And a lot of people slam him for that. They're slam the Vikings front office for selecting somebody that doesn't have that experience. But how can he overcome that? And I think through certain types of motivation and training, you train yourself out that it's okay to win by 30 points. It's okay to put somebody down late in the third quarter and take their will away to play football. That's what I would like to see. Yes, can't have a show without some steak talk. Can you tell I'm sort of hungry, Justin? And I do love me my steaks. Yes, I do. But I think most people do. It's but I have plans. I'm not having steak tonight. I've got it in the fridge. It will be tomorrow night. After this show, I'm going more Christmas shopping like a bunch of you on bye week. So we'll find out. Michael thinks next year a mobile quarterback will be starting. The Wolves will want to make the fans happy too. The Wolves very much care about the fans because it's the fans that are buying the tickets and the merchandise and everything else. And it's fun having a mobile quarterback.
It is.
It's exciting.
As long as things that the fans have the most fun with is getting dubs.
Getting dubs and hopefully eventually that wonderful, stupid trophy named after that team from Wisconsin, their head coach. Anyways, that should be his goal.
Yeah.
Be so good that they change the trophy name to you. How's that? All right, that brings us to theme 3. It's the bye week, and we're talking quick hitters.
We are. I want to thank people for all the comments they're making and coming back to visit us after we had some technical issues. Sorry, I'm not acknowledging the comments. I feel like I'm playing catch up, so I was just trying to get through the content myself. But Dave's pretty good about pointing and acknowledging. I'm not so much. So, but I do see the comments and I appreciate them. But yeah, quick hitters. This week. So with this weekend of Vikingless football, Dave, we ain't taking a break. I thought it was time. You had a few questions during the week that you wanted to get off your chest, and I had a few too that I wanted to address. And so we're going to get at it. Our bye week quick hitters. First one, it was your question, Dave. Pretty good one. Has Jordan Addison hit the rookie wall?
It's a good question. It's that time in the season. He's played a full college season's worth, and his production has dropped here in the last couple games.
It has. Yeah, normally he'd be like, okay, I'm getting ready for the bowl game, or not. If he, or I'm going to sit out the bowl game because I don't want to get hurt, and I'm getting drafted in the first or second round. But yeah, has Jordan Addison hit the rookie wall? I don't think so, Dave. I think he's hit the quarterback wall. What's happened there is that because with the last 2 games with Kirk Cousins as quarterback, he had his 2 best games of the year against the 49ers and that team from Wisconsin. And in the 49ers game, he was targeted the most, a season high 10 times. And against that team from Wisconsin, he was targeted 8 times, which tied his season high previous. When Kirk Cousins goes down with Achilles and he's done for the year, the Vikings are putting in their, first they start with the 3rd string guy, and then they turn to the 3rd string guy gets hurt, and they got to turn to the 4th, the guy that they wasn't even on their team. So, those guys, no matter who it is, Mullens, Dobbs, Jaren Hall, they are not as good a quarterback as Kirk Cousins. The Vikings offense is passing wise is not going to operate at the same level as it did under Kirk Cousins. There's not going to be probably as many throws. There's not going to be as many good throws to the wide receivers. So I felt the production of the wide receivers was going to go down no matter who played, and Addison's production was going to go down, and it has. I don't think that's all of his fault. Yeah, he's dropped some passes, not just last Monday night against the Bears. He's done that almost in every game he's played lately. And he even said this week that he doesn't feel he's playing well right now. And so he's taken that on himself. But still, and he's faced some pretty tough corners the last 3 games in particular. Paulson Adebo, Jalen Johnson, Patrick Surtain are all very good cornerbacks, and they've been on him pretty heavy. And his production has gone down because of that, which I think is understandable. But I don't think he's hit a rookie wall so much as that the quarterback, he can't throw the ball to himself. And even if Justin Jefferson was in there with the quarterbacks we have, I don't think you'd be seeing the same kind of production from Justin Jefferson that you're used to seeing when he's got Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. And so the same is true with Jordan Addison. But still, I think that, despite all of this, I feel that this is a pretty an important and I think a very good development situation that Jordan Addison has found himself in since particularly Justin Jefferson has been out. He gets elevated as basically your number 1 wide receiver. He's getting a lot of attention from cornerbacks and he's drawing the top cornerback a lot of time, and they're covering him. This is all great professional development stuff for Jordan Addison. I think that, even despite the struggles that he's faced, and he's still having a hell of a year for a rookie wide receiver, this is going to make him stronger mentally. It's going to help him be better in his route running and learn how to defeat some of the things that he's facing from the top corners. And I think that he's just going to be a stronger mentally, stronger physically, a better pro in 2024 because of what he's faced in the past 7 years. This year, particularly when Justin Jefferson has not been there to take attention off of him.
That I agree. And that and the carousel quarterbacks, the rhythm and timing thing, because Kirk Cousins is all about rhythm and timing. Everything was 1, 2, 3. That I've said it numerous times. You could place the footprints on the dance floor. That's Kirk Cousins. When all that changed, first Hall, then Dobbs, and it's just a little bit off, he's going to learn from that and become a better wide receiver and how to adjust to things like that to make it happen. So I agree. It's that time. Why I asked the question, it's that time of the season that rookies hit their rookie wall for a lot of them. And with his decline in play over the last 2 games, I thought it was a good question to ask. Not that I believe he has, just that it was a good question to ask.
And it is a good question to ask. And we try to answer it.
Yeah, we try. The best we can, we try. Well, that brings us to the next quick hitter. You wanted to talk about, I think, my question about should we win or lose these last 5 games?
That was your question, Dave. And
what would be most advantageous for the team is why I asked that. Now, most likely they will neither win nor lose all those 5 games. But I'm curious to your opinion, which way you'd want to go on that.
Well, I think I had a question for you, Dave, which is in thinking that, are you like looking at it, well, if we go 0-5, that helps us with our draft position and that's good for the Vikings? Is that kind of how you're looking at it? And if you go 5-0 and you make the playoffs, you're, that sets up another scenario, which may not,
you're the number 3 seed and you're going on. No, I was just asking the question of, it was a series of what ifs.
Yeah. For me,
a long time ago, if you ask what ifs and can answer those when the time comes up, you can better prepare for that. Now, there are reasons for, if you lose all 5, if we go 6-11, we'll probably be right around what? Number 10 in the draft order, somewhere in there, somewhere close. And then, of course, quarterback of the future. is within reach. Whether you wanted to go up a few spots to grab whoever you think the sure thing is. And I think of the old 80s movie with the radio and the sure thing, and he's trying to get out to California to have that sure thing. Or, you're there to get the 2, 3, 4, whatever quarterback you want at that position. So that's the loss. Now, the win is simple. If we go 11-6 on the season, we will have won the NFC North. I'll caveat that. Assuming Detroit loses to Dallas.
Yeah.
We'll win the NFC North, and we will most likely be the 3rd seed in the playoffs, 4th at minimum at that point. And we'll be looking good because we will host that first round, whoever we're playing, because we won't be hosting San Francisco or whoever wins the East. And so we're good there. That's why I asked the question. Now, most likely we'll split it. I know there's 5 games. Dave, you can't go 2-5 or 2-5 in these last games. You technically could if one was a tie, but anyways. That's why I asked the question. What is best for the long term of the team? If you suck and we draft top 10 and get that quarterback of the future, that's obviously good for the Vikings.
Yeah. For me, it's I understand what you're saying. I understand what people are thinking about the, mini tank or whatever go. But for me, it's winning all 5 or 4 out of the 5 or even 3 out of the 2 and making the playoffs. For me as a fan, if I feel the Vikings have a good enough team, have the talent to win more than they lose and make the playoffs, then that's what I want them to do. And because you get in the playoffs, you've always got a shot. I understand what people are thinking, and that if you get a wild card position, then you're probably playing Dallas or San Francisco or somebody like that in the first round, and you're possibly a one-and-done team. But again, anything can happen in the playoffs. We already beat San Francisco this year, at home, mind you, and without Deebo Samuel, but we beat them, and we outplayed them by a fair large margin with Kirk Cousins as quarterback. But, I'm getting too much into those details. But for me, it's winning and making the playoffs, and that's always my, Vikings winning makes me happy, David. It makes most Viking fans happy. And I feel that, think back to 87, if some people on here remember that, but like Vikings went in limping at 8-7, lost 3 of their last 4 games or something, almost blew the chance to make the playoffs. Nobody gave them a hope in hell of winning, even beating New Orleans in the wild card game, or even threatening to make the Super Bowl. They did that. And so you make the playoffs, you always got a shot. And I feel this year was, particularly with our defense the way it is, we actually do have a shot if we get in there compared to some of the other years. So that is...
Go get him. Pointed that out. With Flores can help us in the playoffs.
But going 0-5, 1-4, like I said, we already got 6 wins. You've already went over what that likely gets you as far as a draft position. You're not, so if you lose a whole bunch of games coming down here, don't make the playoffs, you're not in a position to get Caleb Evans or Drake May anyway, unless you want to give up a boatload of picks to draft them. And what I've seen from Williams, I haven't seen May play, but I'm not really convinced that either of them are that generational can't miss guy that you want to be doing that this year for. So I don't like that scenario at all. And the other thing is that I feel that as long as if you got very good scouts, if you got a very good GM, if you're very good at talent evaluation, a lot of people have questions about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in that area right now. But if you've got those things, you can get good players and not be picking in the top 10 or top 5 anyway. Look at the Ravens. Look at the Chiefs. Look at the 49ers. They're not picking high consistently at all most of the past 5-10 years, and they still find good players. They still find Brock Purdy's. They still find Lamar Jackson's. They still find other guys too, that like Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, that end up being really good players for them and keep them rolling even when they're not picking in the top 10, top 5. So I think that's why I want to see the Vikings win. I think that, no matter where you draft, you can find good players. You just need to identify them and get them. And sure, it should, in theory, help you if you're picking some years top 5 or you got the number 1 pick. But how did that work out for the Detroit Lions all those years? It's only recently,
the Chicago Bears, for that matter.
Only recently in the past 2 or 3 years that they've kind of turned that around and actually picked good players in those positions. But before that, they didn't have good scouts. They didn't have good evaluation, and they made horrible picks, even though they were picking in the top 10, top 5 of the draft in every round every year.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got a point there. Now, but the pure numbers of everything, the higher you're picking, the higher the quality of the player. Generally, over the history, it's that ski slope thing. You've got a better chance of doing that. It doesn't mean you can't hit on somebody further down the road, like a 5th-round quarterback from BYU, when there's been 0 5th-round quarterbacks to do anything in the history of the league, starter-wise. You never know. You can do it, because at one point there were 0 6th-rounders and 7th-rounders, and they stepped up, and it's all about the player acquisition and do you get it correct. Kwesi's talked about how sometimes the draft it's not a sure thing. It's more of a crapshoot, and you're not knowing exactly what you're getting. They try to refine that process so they can get it closer to knowing what you're getting, but you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen, whether the guy's maxed out in college at his level or if he still has room for development and to explode and be better in the pros than he ever was in college. You hope you identify the latter guys that are, hey, he was real good in college, but he only had 3 sacks his entire time. Boom. Yeah. He's now working on getting 20 sacks this season.
Yeah. We know who that is.
Wonder.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. Forrest Gump would say, that's all I got to say about that.
Now, the graphic I have is the current seeding as it stands today, the current playoff race for the NFC. And we are in the 6th seed presently. We've already won the bye with Seattle losing on Thursday night.
A couple other things we need to do to win the bye, though.
What's that?
That would have been my final thought, Dave. But what that is for Kansas City to beat that team from Wisconsin tomorrow, and for the Browns to go on the road and beat the Rams, who are resurgent, if that's the right word, but they haven't really played anybody any good lately either.
Mm-hmm. Corey talks about draft picks for a QB is a crapshoot. He'd rather have a vet. There's an argument for that, Corey. The advantage of a draft pick, however, is the low cost and that you can build up the team around him if you hit on that individual. That's the advantage. GOA 007, Kwesi's second draft was only good because KOC picked Addison. I would give it a little bit more than that, but we'll find out. And Flores definitely picked the defensive players. That's all part of how it works. And you got a great avatar, by the way.
Yeah. There's still a lot to be written on both the Kwesi's draft classes. 2022, with a little bit more data, is not looking very good. Although it's some guys are, Ed Ingram's improvement is helping that out a little bit, and hopefully Caleb Evans, either Booth or Seen, can somehow work their way out of the up the depth chart and contribute for a change. But this year's draft class, a small one with 6 guys, but of course Addison's been a hit. I think Mekhi Blackman has played very well when he's played. And then the rest of it going to take some time, but we didn't expect Jay Ward, Jake Roy, or Jaren Hall to really be guys that would have a large role other than maybe special teams on this team this year anyway. And that's what we've seen.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to take a late round guy that's turned out good, proven in the past, Josh Metellus.
Absolutely.
Josh Metellus is a hinge pin player on our defense. And he was what, a 6th rounder?
6th rounder in 2020. 6th rounder.
Figured to be nothing more than a punt returner and special teams guy. And now he's literally becoming a star and critical point of this defense. So they
I'd
can
say
develop.
he's our defensive MVP for me.
Okay. Now, there was one more topic on these quick hitters you wanted to talk about with Doogie and his scoops when it came to who's playing this weekend or next weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, he was his scoop was that it's going to be Mullens. That was his take on things, which we discussed earlier. They also got into the whole thing about how Kirk Cousins wasn't at the game Monday night against the Bears. A medical issue, apparently, was just why he wasn't there. But he hasn't been on a sideline presence at any of the games, really. When he got hurt, I thought was kind of like, oh, well, I was kind of hoping that once his surgery was done and he was up to it, that he would be on the sidelines like Justin Jefferson has been, encouraging the team and being maybe another set of eyes for whoever was quarterbacking. Well, he hasn't been like that. He hasn't been like the attention whore Aaron Rodgers, who's been on the sidelines since he's impossible, saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm here, I'm with the team, I'm doing my thing." But
I'm throwing some passes and warm-ups.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I think that Kirk Cousins has only had media availability once since he had the surgery. He hasn't really talked about that issue. I do think that he's going to quarterback meetings, he's helping with game plans, that sort of stuff. That's been mentioned, but he hasn't been on the sidelines, a presence. And I think I understand, and I think it's a good thing why Kirk has done that. I think his feeling on that is that if he's on the sidelines, the cameras are going to be on him all the time. That he's going to be the focus instead of Dobbs or Jaren Hall or Nick Mullens as the Vikings try to get to the playoffs. And he'd be a bit of a distraction there. So I think that is why he has chosen to not be on the field and be that kind of, make his presence known. And I think that's a good thing because, again, it's really the Vikings are going to win based on how Josh Dobbs plays on the field and how Nick Mullens plays on the field, or whoever is quarterbacking, and that is the and so that is. I think that's been a good thing and a good decision by Kirk in this case, and as long as he is, and I think he is, like, he's doing stuff off the field, away from the camera, to help the Vikings in game planning and help the quarterbacks. But game day, I think it's a good thing that he is not being like so out there, out front, and showing that he's with the team and trying to help. I think that would, again, be a distraction and might cause a bit of a confusion on the sideline as well. Because you got quarterback coaches who are doing all that stuff anyway for whoever's starting. And I don't think you need another guy going in there saying, do this, so this is what I see, that sort of thing.
Right. I was about to wonder, what if you put him up in the booth, but he's on the headset with everybody, and it may be a distraction. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was Justin talking about what do I think about re-signing Cousins. That's a question that we're going to be talking about as soon as the season is over. I think everybody's going to be talking about that. I don't love it, but what are your? I guess the question is, what are your other options if you don't sign him? That's the where are you going to go? What's your plan A? What's your plan B? And I don't think that I think part of that's going to be determined in the next 5 games by how the quarterbacks that we do have now, how they perform. That's going to guide what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, their plan in 2024 offseason as to, do you sign Cousins? Do you draft a quarterback early in the 2024 draft? Do you sign a bridge quarterback and bring some of the guys back that we already have? Those are your options, and I have no idea how the Vikings are going to go in that.
And I'm sure us and Justin will talk about it almost ad nauseum as we go into next season. It'll be topic du jour straight off the get-go. It's not like we can say, we have Super Bowl winning multiple time Tom Brady coming back to start next year, and we have no worries at quarterback other than who are we going to add as an extra body to see if he can develop as a backup. We don't have that. We have a very big question at quarterback, and that will be something to hear. Now, when it comes to quarterbacks, and we think Mullens will be starting. How short of a leash? How quickly now will KOC hook somebody and yank them out of the game if he perceives they're playing poorly?
That's always a tough one, Dave, right? For the head coach in particular, because if you do that, well, what's going to happen after the game? that's you're going to have to answer 50 questions based on who's the quarterback now. Why did you take out so and so? Why did you put in so and so? And if it doesn't work, then you're going to get hammered for that. Why didn't you stick with so and so? Because the who you replaced, he just didn't help. So you open up that Pandora's box, Dave, and a lot of times it doesn't end well for head coaches. It's like the old John Madden thing where if you got 3 quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterback. Well, so that's kind of, and that's why I think and O'Connell obviously had that in mind, I think, when he decided not to put Mullens in the fourth quarter or the third quarter for Dobbs, because there's a whole bunch of dominoes that fall once you do that, and you cannot undo that once you've done it, and it can have a lot of ramifications for Dobbs's confidence, and he's going to have to answer to it. And if it doesn't work out, you're going to have to answer for it, and you're going to have to answer for it either way. It's just, and as a coach, I think he's seen a lot of times where, and seen in the past, where if you're not patient with a player, you have a quick hook with them when they don't play well, that can backfire for you, for the player, and for you and for your team.
Mm-hmm. With that, any last words before we go off and enjoy the rest of our bye weekend?
Just, I think last words is that this is a mini topic in itself. I don't want to drone on about it, but since the Bears game, I've been seeing lots of stuff about like, the Vikings suck, Dobbs sucks, O'Connell sucks, fire everybody, tear it all down, this is terrible. And I just think some perspective is in order here in this game. I think for this team, in that if you'd told after a 1-4 start, and we lose all those games with the turnovers and the close games, and then you lose Justin Jefferson, and then 3 games later you lose Kirk Cousins for the year, and over those 7 games for the Vikings to go 5-2, if you told Vikings fans in those 7 games without Justin Jefferson and partly without Kirk Cousins, they're going to go 5-2, they're going to be 6-6 at the bye, they're going to have the 6th seed in the NFC and be in a playoff spot, I think every Vikings fan would have taken that and said, I can't believe we'd be in that position, but yes, let's do it. And then we lose to the Bears and the Broncos, and now the sky is falling again. And I don't think, it's not great, but I don't think the sky is falling. The playoffs are still in front of us. A lot of it's going to depend on how whoever is playing quarterback, how they play, and if they don't screw it up completely. But I think that, again, like Kevin O'Connell deserves a lot of credit for keeping the team together the way it has. And I think this Vikings team, I think the expectations were raised when we went on that 5-game winning streak. I don't think we should have had any expectations.
Like I said, we're playing with house money.
Yeah,
as soon as you lose your starting quarterback, it's done. Anything after that's house money.
We're in the playoff hunt. Let's try to enjoy it. I know it's hard to enjoy a 12-10 game that you lose when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions. Nobody enjoyed that, but we're in the hunt. Sky been falling. We're in the hunt. I think this team has been punching above its weight in the last 7 games and is playing above expectations. Again, when you don't have one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL anymore, and you don't have the top wide receiver in the NFL during that 7-game stretch. So that is my final word on things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm seeing posts from Vikings First and Goal, which means that happens to be Tyler taking over the account. Hey, Tyler, good to see you. We're at the very end, Tyler. You're going to have to watch it on rewind. Both streams, because it screwed up, and I apologize for that. It was a glitch software. I have no idea what did it. Hopefully it was stable the rest of the way. I want to thank everybody who joined us.
Good comment back there.
What's that, Freddie? I just want the Packers to beat KC. Yep. There's Jonathan. Good one from Jonathan. I will not read over the air, but yes. And so we'll see. But I want to thank everybody that joined us. See some new people on there. Z31. It's a good day. Glad you could join us. We all love our Vikings. It's the bye week, so we don't have to stress out too much, and we can enjoy it and root for other stuff happening this week, like the Kansas City Chiefs putting a beat down on that team from Wisconsin. And as Tyler said, he's been writing scouting reports today. As you know, he's heavy into that. If you want to check that out, go over to VikingsWire.com, part of USA Today's network, and you can find some of the best writing there is on the whole subject and the Minnesota Vikings. And that will be it. Next show will be Monday, the Real Forno Show with Tyler.
Two of the hardest working men in show business right there, folks. Dave Stefano and Tyler Fornes. Always on the Vikings beat.
We try. And, hey, we love this team just as much as you do. So we want them to succeed. And that's a big deal. But like I said, enjoy the rest of your weekend. That's my plans, and I'm sure it's Darren's as well. Go have fun. Go enjoy it. Eat good food. Enjoy good friends, family, great beverage. Do some Christmas shopping, and have a great day. And what do we say, brother?
We say, Skol Vikings, baby.
Skol Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and Skol. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. Skol, everybody!